In this video, we'll take a look at some more options of the FTP program. So we saw how to start up the FTP program, get into command mode, and then type in commands. And there's a whole lot of commands, so it's not going to be possible to go through every single one of these. The best way to learn about FTP is just to try it out. So you can do something like this, FTP, and if you don't know the server name, you would say open this connection to, I'm going to use this MIT site. I hope they don't mind that I do this. Open rtfm.mit.edu. If it's a valid site, it'll ask you for a password. For a username. By default, it's the same as your username, but you want to say anonymous because we don't have an account on that FTP site. So one of the things about anonymous is that anonymous access to FTP is that when you say anonymous, you cannot upload files. You can only download files. If you had a valid username and password, then you can not only download files, you can also upload files into your own FTP location. In this case, we say anonymous, no password needed, I believe. Alright, and then it tells us it also tells us that this remote system type is Unix. It's using binary mode to transfer files by default. You can type in commands like ls. If you want a complete list of commands, use the question mark. So as you can see, there's a lot of commands, probably more than we can go over in this video. Okay, so if you want to quit, you say bye. And we saw that the last time, how to do that. You use the question mark to get a list of all the commands. Typically, we would say FTP and then the name of the server, or you can say FTP return and then open, the name of the server. Close does the opposite of open. You close the connection, and quit gets you out of the program. There's a bunch of commands for transferring files. First of all, you can switch between ASCII mode and binary mode. Binary is what you want to do if you're transferring almost any kind of file. Typically, you want to use binary. There are some small things that don't work if you switch to binary and you actually transfer ASCII files. So you want to watch out for that. You might want to check it out. Once you're logged in, and you set the modes, you can get, and as you just saw in the previous video, you can get a file or do a multiple get, so mget, and get a copy of all the files if you want. So let's try that. So if you say an ls, you see a list of all the files, and you say mget, and you can do star. Not all FTP servers will let you do this, but I believe this one might. Since it's a Unix server, it looks like it is working. So it does ask you, do you really want to get this file? And you can say no. So it'll just go one by one, this file, this file, this file, and so on. So I'm just going to say no, just to show you that even a file of size 0, that is lock file, it asks you whether you want it or not. You say no. And do you want this file? No. And it even asks you if you want to get this directory, although it cannot. Mget, I believe, cannot get you an entire directory. That it, even though it seems like it might work when it says, should I really get this pub directory? If you try it, I don't think it'll work. Let's try that. Say yes. Yep. Okay, so it only works for files. So you can try mget star. It'll work for files, but if you have directories and you try it, it's just not going to work, I think. So why is that? Because it's not clear exactly how to transfer directories between one system and another. So what's preferred that you do is you take a whole bunch of files in a directory, convert that to a tar file, and then you can download the tar file. You can compress it to make that download faster. Okay, so let's try this again, but this time with the bell command. So bell, and I might not be able to hear it. So you might not hear the bell, but let's try it. Get index by time dot gz. I'm listening for the bell. Oh yeah, I did hear it. Okay, so it does work. You turn the bell mode on and get something, and when it's done, it'll beep at you. That tells you it's done. Let's try hash mark printing. Let's get the same file. We're not really interested in the file, we're just interested in some of these commands. Okay, so when you say hash, it gives you, I believe, okay, 1 hash mark for every kilobyte, or 1024 bytes. So this is 1 kilobyte, 2 kilobytes, so on. You can count this, it's about 300 kilobytes. Okay, so those are some of the standard commands that you would use. You would get, you would mget, you would turn on the bell or the hash to get some more feedback about where it is, to make sure that you're not, your FTP program is not just stuck and sitting there doing nothing. You can use these commands to make sure you are making some progress in downloading or uploading. So just like there's get, there's also put and input. There's also a bunch of directory commands. You can cd, you can navigate around, and it also turns out there is a local cd command. So for example, let's say I want to see a list of files in my local file system. I can use this. Bang or exclamation ls tells me all the files in my local system, whereas just plain ls tells me what's in the remote system. So plain ls gives you a list of files in the remote system, that is this MIT server. Bang ls tells you what's in your local system, and then you can do a lcd to, for example, the temp directory. This will change the current working directory in FTP to be this temp directory, so that if I download stuff, I will download it to the temp directory. So it tells me now, when you say lcd temp, the local directory is now /home/uwrf/temp. And I can do a bang ls, and tells me I have one directory. Well, I know that that's a directory. I can also do commands like, bang rm -rf. Remember, be careful with that command, because it'll remove everything in that directory. And so now if I do a bang ls, it's gone. So now I can do an m get star index by name. No, I don't want that. Maybe I'll get this one. And since I turned on the hash, I get hash symbols for every kilobyte of data transferred. And this is a 3 megabyte file, which I probably should not have transferred because it'll take a long time, but that's fine. Okay, so you can do CD, you can do LCD for local CD. You can also use dir or ls, either one will work. pwd works just like in the bash shell prompt. You can just say pwd to get the work to figure out what is their current working directory. You can make a remote directory using mkdir. You can delete a file, you can mdelete. Of course, you need permissions to do that, so an anonymous user cannot typically do that. Okay, so we saw some of these things, question mark. The bang or exclamation switches to escape shell mode. What that does is execute a shell locally and then execute a single command. Hash gives you some more feedback. In the book it says the data block size is 8192, but on our system, on the Linux Live DVD, the FTP program, uses a data block size of 1024 bytes or 1 kilobyte. Okay, so we've seen some of this, and we did not actually log in with a named user other than anonymous with a valid password, just because that's going to depend on the particular system that you're using. Okay, we saw the bell command and the hash command. And you can check the binary mode. It turns out a lot of systems will actually transfer files. They'll switch to binary mode to transfer files. You don't have to switch yourself anyway. So you can switch between binary and ASCII mode. ASCII is what you typically want for commands and things. Okay, so you can CD around in the remote system. You can use dir or ls to get a list of files, and then you can get the particular file that you want, or you can say mget and then use wildcard characters to choose all the ones, and then it'll ask you whether you really want to get those files or not. So the book talks about anonymous FTP, and that is actually all we've been using so far. We logged in remotely and we used anonymous as the username. And you can enter either no string, or the book says non-empty string. Turns out a lot of systems do allow you to use empty strings to log in as well. Okay, and then the book talks about some more of these options. So all of these which we have seen. Remember, lcd is a local cd command to help to allow you to change directory, so that you can, when you get files, you put them into a different place than the current working directory. So like get, there's a put command to upload a file to the server. Okay. One other thing I do want to mention is you can say, let's say you're transferring files. Let's say we have this system, and I'm going to choose a small file. This one is not bad, so I can do get index by time dot gz, and I can say, I can give it a new file, a new name in my local system. So I can say get this file. What this is saying is I want to get this file that's in the remote system and call it index in my local system. So it tells you the local file name is index. Here it is. The local file name is index. The remote file name is index by time.gz. So let's quit. CNLS, you'll see, in addition to all those things, you have to cd to temp because that's where we were. There's my index file. I can actually, even though it doesn't seem like it, it is a gz file, so I might be able to unzip it. Let's try it. Unknown suffix, so we have to move this index to index.gz and then unzip, and it looks like it worked. So I can transfer a file, change the file extension, unzip it, and then you can get exactly what was there before, only it's called something different. And I know it because the size of these two files is the same. I'm guessing it all worked. Okay. So next up we'll take a look at other remote login commands.